Salut, I'm Jennifer, your French teacher in the south of France, and the exercise we're about to do together is a translation exercise from English to French, and it comes directly from my French Translation Club, which is a year-long club, and you and I will be doing exercises like this every single day for 365 days. And the exercises, the way it works, they're delivered to you daily. You get one exercise a day. Well, what if it happens on a Saturday or a Sunday and you're busy and you don't want to do French? Then you know what? Once they're delivered, they're not going anyway because once you sign up for the club, you will have permanent access to all of the materials. So you can go through the club with me for 1 year, and then you can say, you know what? I think I'm going to do this again for a second year, and it won't cost you anything else. The Translation Club is only €1 a day, and you can choose to pay for that all at once, or you can pay for it over 3 months, or you can pay for it over 6 months. You can even pay for it over 12 months if that's a better fit for you. I really, really hope that you'll enjoy the following exercise, and I especially hope to see you in the French Translation Club. À bientôt. Salut! What we're going to do today is go through a translation exercise. So I'm going to show it to you in English. Be on the lookout for the following points de grammaire. Habitude, avant de, se rendre, partir, se mettre à, and adverbs and adjectives. Now I'm going to give you one sentence in English, as you have already seen on your translation worksheet. Maybe you've already worked through the translation on your own. Now you can go through the video with me, and I'm going to show you 3 different ways to translate this sentence. And that doesn't mean that if you didn't do it the same way that yours is wrong. Remember, there's always more than one way to translate something. C'est parti. Now here's the sentence that we're going to translate from English to French. Each morning, I make a habit of drinking a freshly brewed cup of coffee before heading out to work. And here is my first translation. I'm going to show you 3. C'est ma première traduction. Chaque matin, j'ai l'habitude de boire une tasse de café fraîchement préparée avant de me rendre au travail. Now let's break that down. Now I went with chaque matin. Maybe you wrote tous les matins. And if you did, that's okay. Tous, T-O-U-S, les, L-E-S, matin with an S on it. That would be fine. Although I didn't do it in any of my translations. I prefer chaque matin. J'ai l'habitude de boire. And here we have an avoir expression. Avoir l'habitude de, followed by an infinitive. Don't forget the de. It's super important. Une tasse de café, that's generally how we say a cup of coffee. Fraîchement préparé. Fraîchement préparé. Freshly brewed. So brewed, we can just go with préparé. It's as simple as that. Now, fraîchement, this is our adverb. That means freshly. What is the adjective form of fraîchement? What is the masculine singular adjective form? Frais, F-R-A-I-S, frais. Now, what is the feminine form of frais? Fresh. So remember that generally speaking, when we are forming adverbs, all we're doing is taking the feminine form of the adjective, which in this case is fraîche, and we add ment to it. Fraîchement préparé. Now, préparé is an adjective here, but you may notice it also as the past participle of the verb préparer. Did you know we can use, and we always use, very frequently, I should say. We very frequently use past participles as adjectives. So here we have an E on the adjective préparer because it has to agree with une tasse de café. Just one more thing, avant de me rendre au travail. So before doing something, you can use avant de followed by an infinitive. In this case, the infinitive I've chosen is a reflexive verb. It's the verb se rendre. Se rendre. Now, this might be new to you. Avant de, so I have to change the se to me because je is the sentence and is the subject, and those have to match. So, avant de me rendre au travail, before rendering myself to work. Well, Jennifer, couldn't I just say before going to work? Couldn't I just say avant d'aller, D apostrophe aller au travail? Yes, of course you can. But I wanted to show you this verb se rendre in case you didn't know it, because it is used a lot, like a lot of reflexive verbs. Now let's have a look at my second translation. Okay, now I did some things a little differently in my second translation, ma deuxième traduction. Chaque matin, par habitude, je bois une tasse de café fraîchement préparée avant de partir au travail. So let's see here. What have I done differently this time? Chaque matin, par habitude. So in my first translation, I said j'ai l'habitude de boire. Avoir l'habitude de followed by an infinitive. Well, this one is just as good. It's just another way to say the same thing. Par habitude. So I'm not even using a verb. I don't need a de, and I'm not using an infinitive for boire. I have the subject je, and boire is conjugated in the present tense with je. So here's an option for you. Par habitude. Je bois une tasse de café fraîchement préparée. All of that stays the same. Avant de, followed by an infinitive. The structure is the same, but I've changed the infinitive. Instead of saying avant de me rendre au travail, I have written avant de partir au travail, before leaving for work. Now, the thing is, I just said in English before leaving for work. And these are some of the things that are going to be tricky. Those prepositions. Are you with me? Prepositions are tricky. Even if in English we say leaving for work, in English, we're still going to say, in French. In French, we're still going to say au travail. Partir au travail. Et ma troisième traduction, chaque matin, c'est une habitude pour moi de boire du café fraîchement fait avant de me mettre au travail. Now, in my third translation, I'll admit that I'm using my poetic license. I realize I've changed the meaning slightly, but I still wanted you to see this. So we can change the meaning of slightly. We don't always have to have an exact translation. So here's an example of that. Chaque matin, c'est une habitude pour moi de. Now, this is the same thing as saying avoir l'habitude de, followed by an infinitive. Par habitude, it's just another way to say the same thing. We still need the de before the infinitive boire. Now, here's where I've changed it. Instead of saying une tasse de café, I've just written du café, using the partitive article du before café because it's masculine. De boire du café fraîchement fait. So you can see I've changed my adjective as well from préparer to fait, which is still the past participle of the verb faire, but it's being used as an adjective. Now, this time I'm making agreement with du café, right? So it's just masculine. Avant de me mettre au travail. Here again, I've changed the meaning. I'm not saying here before going to work. Do you know what this means? Avant de me mettre au travail, because before we saw a reflexive verb. Avant de me rendre au travail. This means something completely different. Avant de me rendre au travail, in our first translation, meant before going to work, to the actual place. This means avant de me mettre au travail, before starting to work. Before starting working? I don't know. I'm saying it wrong in English, but you get what I mean. I'm starting the business of working. Se mettre à. What's another way I could have said this? If it means to begin, I could have also used avant de commencer à travailler. And that would have been a little bit different. Commencer à has to be followed by an infinitive. Avant de commencer à travailler, the infinitive form of the verb travailler. Avant de me mettre au travail, before putting myself to work. So, because maybe I'm working from home, maybe I'm not going to work. Voilà, voilà. So, in today's exercise, we went over trois façons de traduire la même phrase. Now, these were my three ways of translating the same sentence. You may have come up with something completely different or slightly different, I would say. And we went over Habitude, remember those three ways. Avant de, followed by an infinitive. Se rendre, remembering that that just means aller. We could also use partir au travail, to leave for work, partir au travail. Se mettre à, you can se mettre à, just like you can commencer à. And by the way, se mettre à can also be followed by an infinitive if you like. Just like you can say commencer à travailler, you can say se mettre à travailler. And then we talked about turning adjectives into adverbs. So I will see you next time. And these sentences are not going to go away because after we go through a cycle of 10 days of exercises, you're going to have an opportunity to see these sentences again in the form of a dictée. So we can switch things up a little bit. Allez, à la prochaine.